Event Management Use Case Database Basics. We're going to review a quick start steps to get you going, and we're going to review a schema of a sample database, and we'll review some sample reports. So, how many out there have a SIM in their organization? Show of hands. How many of your organizations formally document and manage what your SIM, what you want to do with your SIM, and what you've done with your SIM? Not many. Okay. Well, hopefully this will help. So why am I doing this? Hopefully this is going to be helpful to others. Just want to give back to the security community. Who's it for? It's for those who might be stuck in, log review hell and may even need a SIM, or may need to prove that they need a SIM, or they have a SIM that they don't know how to manage because it's such a high-level effort to manage and to organize. A little bit about me. In this order of priority, I'm a Christian, husband, father, and an information security engineer. I graduated from RIT. 8 of my 12 years of InfoSec have been directly related with SIM. I've implemented over 10 different enterprise systems, such as like DOP, IDS, NAC, all kind of different technologies I've implemented. I have experience with multiple SIMs. I've developed 2 security operation programs, and I'm currently deployed for a large for-profit education system that has about over 100 universities with 80,000 students, and we support their security operations for their servers and all the schools that are connected to the network. Everything here in this presentation is vendor agnostic, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. So what is a SIM use case? Well, it's anything you want your SIM to do. It's actionable output. In simplistic terms, it's what you want to do. It defines, a SIM use case is it defines the who, what, where, why, and how. It could be an alert, a report, or a dashboard. Could be as simple as an idea or as in-depth as a correlated theory with different types of data. We're going to go through an example use case. This use case is going to alert when there are over 10 failed logins on a critical Unix server, and then inform the SecOps team. It's going to be alert. You see there's a picture of Hydra, and that's kind of the type of attack, a password cracking attack. It's designed to alert on. And so this is just a very simple. I think everybody understands this use case, and we're gonna walk through that. So why do you want to maintain a SIM use case database? Well, you've heard people say, well, you don't want to boil the ocean. Well, at least you want to define the ocean that you want to boil. Okay. You should be able to do anything you could dream of if provided the data in a SIM, but there's a lot you can do. Every environment is unique. There are going to be standard use cases that every environment's going to most every environment's going to have. Active directories, you got your firewalls, there's going to be some standard SIM use cases that you have, but your environment's going to be very unique because you have different networks, you have different hosts, you have many different variables that makes your organization unique. It helps you document and organize your ideas. In the middle of the night, ideas are really good for me. Something you'll just think of things and you want to rewrite it down. You make sure you write it down before you forget it. So you'll have security incident lessons learned findings. When you have a security incident, you want to have a place to document them. A lot of the times when you have a lessons learned meeting, you don't have the time to really develop the use case. Instead of just developing the use case, at least document it in your use case database. You also want to capture the requests you can get from other non-security IT teams. Your SIM has lots of useful information in it, so that's a place where you can queue it up. And when I say, whenever you say UCDB on here, the acronym, that means Use Case Database. If you are a SIM developer, this allows you to prioritize your time and effort. If you're the actual one making the developing and making the code in your SIM to actually make it do things, it helps you prioritize. It helps you determine what data you want to collect. A lot of times you don't know where you should be focusing your data collection efforts, because that's really half the battle. With a lot of these things. allows you to develop a work queue. Just identify, it helps you answer, well, what do I work on next? It helps you keep up with the ever-changing threat landscape. And, threats change every day. You're going to find new use cases every day. We need to keep up with it. We need to manage it. So every use case has a life cycle, and that typically goes from concept, an idea, to development, such as a birth, and then it goes into production, where it will be there, and you may have to tweak it a little bit, and then it probably goes to its death, and then you just start with another one. It's a life cycle. It helps keep your a use case database, helps keep your SIM developers and consultants available. I know a lot of times SIMs require specialized efforts and consultants, and because they're such, take a lot of work to manage. When you go and contract your consultant, have your use cases documented so that they can actually work off the requirements. They're much like programmers. They take the requirements and they develop them. When you have them documented prior, even in the statement of work, it goes much more smoothly, that consulting engagement. A lot of times also I've found that consultants will help update your use cases because of their experience. If you're a consultant, as like a SIM developer, providing the use cases that you develop in a format like this, we'll go through, it's definitely very impressive. Helps you show value to management. We're going to go through some metrics and some statuses. We got some work to do versus work accomplished statuses, or just shows you what you can do, what the work you need and work you have done, just to show, and also shows SIM usefulness for your security operations program. Status reports can also be provided to other entities within the organization, such as auditors. When you actually don't want to show them your SIM, you could at least show them what you are doing in your SIM, and just having a quick report will allow that to occur. What if I don't have a SIM? You could use the use case database to define your needs. Replace your manual reviews and actually start document what you're doing today in your manual reviews. Document your process gaps, and then you could also develop a total cost of ownership. Things like, if we collect this data, we'll be more accurate, and we'll spend less time, looking at logs. You could also utilize the tool to replace an existing SIM that maybe can't do what you want it to do. You want to include the use case database in your RFP too. When you have a use case database, you could say, okay, I want my SIM to do this, 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 and this. What I've found is when you're purchasing or looking to replace the SIM is, the question is, how can you do it? How much effort does it take? So, and what I would do is probably, as part of the RFP, is ask them to, rate it in a scale of 1 to 10, how easy it would be to implement this use case. Or even ask for how many resource hours estimated. If your SIM cannot satisfy your use cases, it's probably time to move on. Okay, what I'm providing is a sample SIM use case database. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. It's really nothing fancy. It's designed to be useful, functional, and easy. There are some other frameworks out there that help you manage use cases, but this one's really just simple and really focused around SIM. And hopefully it will help all of you quickly get started with managing SIM use cases. So just a quick start on that. You could download, if you like, you could start now and look at the spreadsheet as we go through this. The URL's down below. But what you want to do when you get it, delete all the sample data. There's just some sample data there. You just remove it, edit the data validation tab that allows for drop-downs, and modify your scheme and just start at it. All right, so let's get into the schema of the sample use case database. It's just a key. ID is just a key, just like any other database. We talked about the statuses before about that life cycle, how a use case will go from concept to death, or disabled or functional status, whatever you want there. So I also want to another interesting thing you could do with statuses is you could put other statuses in such as in peer review or manager approval process. But once something goes in production, all those fields in this database should be filled out once it's in production. Title's very important. Basically what it is, it's the name of the report or dashboard or whatever you're creating. It should be intuitive and make sense to its recipients. A lot of times it could be in the email subject. Keep it consistent within your SIM. So if you change it in your use case database or change it in your SIM, make sure you update this spreadsheet as well so everybody knows what they're talking about and they're referring to. I have this is an example naming scheme. A naming scheme is pretty important to allow for organizing, filtering, and sorting when you have hundreds of use cases. And it also allows people to really understand what they're expecting or understand what they're expecting when they see something, when they see an alert, or report, or a dashboard. Here's some more example titles. We're going to call our sample use case Unix excessive failed login to critical server alerts. Type is what type of data output is it? Report, dashboard. It's just what type of output it is. In this case, it's an alert. This is probably the most advanced thing it's doing. I realize it's simplified, but this is the most advanced thing. This is a calculation. So we'll first go through importance. Top left there is how important this is to our business case. We multiply that by development effort, meaning just how hard it is or how much time you think it'll take to develop that use case in your SIM. And then you could multiply that by a multiplier if you have the data by 2. If collecting data is half the battle, just double it. If your data is in your SIM, then that increases your priority score, which is at the bottom. So it's importance times development effort times 2 if your data is already in your SIM. And really the purpose of this calculation is to identify quick wins. There's primary and correlated data source. I've included about 50 generic samples. I actually recommend you go specific, and you'll see some examples coming up. In this example, this is coming from a Unix syslog feed. There's primary security detection classification. These are some classifications based on my experience that you could classify a use case. There are other classifications out there, and maybe you could correlate with other frameworks such as the Varus framework, the vocabulary for event recording and incident sharing. If your environment is more web application focused for detecting security threats, you may consider the Web Application Security Consortium, the WASC classifications. In this example, it is an unauthorized account usage classification. Next, we're going to go through some open text fields. These are just some examples of what they may be, and they could be whatever you like. Benefit ROI, saying something like, okay, rather than manually reviewing every log file, we could save 10 minutes per host, and then that's how we're winning back. That's how the return on investment is occurring. Based, versus manual log review. Description and goal. It's just a description of what it is. This is an alert. 10 failed logins occur from a critical server. Pseudocode and a logic sample query. It's actually very helpful when you find something in your SIM and you're analyzing and you found something and you want to go back to it. You could lose it very easily. And this is something you could actually, I suggest you put the query or a reference to the query of the data you found in a prior instance so that it helps you develop quicker. And just next steps, what do you need to do to develop this, push the use case forward? Yeah. Okay, there's some more fields here. Author, we want to give people credit for adding things to the use case database. Developer, who made it happen. The go live date, when it went to production. Alert priorities, and that's, you could define that based on your environment, how you do alerting. Report frequency, how often you want a scheduled report to go out. The responsible group is basically the recipient of the content. They could go to an email address. And the procedure for when that group or recipient receives that content, you want to include instructions. Well, in this case, contact the user to figure out if the user was malicious or fat-fingered the password 10 times or what. So, if not, open a security incident. All right, we're going to go over some reports. This is just a little funny thing, actually not sim-related, but I hate when users export too much data. Sample reports, production alerts by responsible group. It's good for marketing your SIM, what your security operations programs does. Here's another sample report for concept alerts by category and responsible groups. So it's a prioritized menu to help you identify what you want to develop next based on your security category or in the responsible group. You'll see there the priority scores in the middle. It's in this case data loss. The Security Operations Center has a priority score of 24, and that seems to be the highest use case. So that was something you probably want to focus on next if you're concerned about data loss, and the Security Operations Center can do ice cream buffer overflow attempt. And those are just some fake use case titles. It's just a dashboard, alerts by status, reports by status, give you an idea of where all your entire program is, what your entire program is doing. And then the classification down at the bottom left is the your production alert, what you're really alerting on. So in this environment or this example, about 43% of all use cases are focused on malware. On the right-hand side, there's the concept, there's the data sources I was talking about earlier. You really want to get focused or detailed a little bit better than this probably on your sources, and you could count, say, okay, I have 30 firewall alerts or whatever you're doing for Windows security event logs. It's just another view, potentially a security manager point of view, where you could see, okay, where am I focusing my efforts? Where are my efforts at the current moment based on the security category? And you also want to capture metrics too over time. You have to do that in this case. This was done quarterly, and you see at the top is the development effort and the number of production alerts and the number of concept alerts over time kind of cross each other. Well, that typically means there was a development effort where all the use cases went from concept to production, and that's actually, or a development into production. That's a good thing because work's getting done. So how do I fill up my use case database? It could be a whole talk on itself, but here's some quick tips. First, it's your brain, security analysts, your data. You really got to just think of things. When you add different technology, you get a new log feed, you study it. What can I do with this data to help detect and just detect things? Another good source is out-of-the-box SIMs. It seems to be a newer thing these days, where the SIM use cases are built on customer requirements, much like a program. Pen test results. Definitely one thing if you are a customer of a pen tester, ask your pen tester to provide use cases based on their pen test in the format that you have, such as this format. Just give them the schema and ask them to fill it out. If you are a pen tester, potentially include this type of format in your report. Risk assessment results, internal, external, definitely good places. Vendor customer forums is a good place to find use cases. And another one is just ask con attendees. I like to ask other people, what's your best SIEM use case? What's really working in your environment? And if you come home with that and just do it, it's just sometimes you get some really good ideas just by asking. We've mentioned security incident lessons learned meetings. That's definitely something, definitely a very good source for your environment to get use cases. And ultimatewindowssecurity.com also is a decent place for use cases. Okay, that's it. Here's the goods. You could download it here. Does anybody have any questions? In the back.